literally the only difference between people that really do succeed and get stuff done is that they just don't. They have an urgency to them. Like everything behind them is a sense of urgency. Like I talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's like you're impatiently patient. Like you know that, hey, I don't have time to just kind of sit here keep consuming. What am I gonna keep? Am I just gonna keep consuming information for the sake of consuming information? Like, oh man, this is like it makes you feel good to like know this new stuff. Like it's like, dang, that was good. And it's like you listen to someone say something or you read something in a book and it's like, whoo, that was good. And it's like it just goes to the back of your head and that's it. That was good. Yeah, it was. It's always so funny how we in the beginning we would always hear people talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad.
That's a good book. Yeah, that was a good one, bro.
It'd be like, or you'd be like, yeah, I've been reading this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and be like, yeah, man, that was a good book. And it's like, wait, this dude's he's at a 9-to-5 job with me, and he's telling me Rich Dad Poor Dad was a good book. I just found this book. If Rich Dad Poor Dad is a good book, why are you still working his job? And why is it still? And I'm not saying you can't work, but it's like, why is this still your life? It's not congruent. It's like you just like to know the information, you just like to talk, but you don't actually want to, or it's maybe you don't want to, you don't want to put in the effort, or you're afraid to actually take action on the information.
Yo, you're listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex coming here, and we are back with episode 145 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, man. So I'm actually here on like an abnormal day. So my sister is actually moving into UTSA, your alma mater, huh?
Yeah. Shout out to the Roadrunners.
Yep. So she moved in today. So I'm actually here while she's moving in. Going back to see her later with her new dorm and everything. So everything's going well though. We woke up super early to get out here though. Yeah. I'm definitely feeling it, but I'm excited though.
It's a tough drive to do that early.
Yeah, she she had hit the rumble strips one time. I was like, "Hey, what's going on with you? You all right?" Because I had her make sure she was the one that was driving.
Yeah. She gotta get used to it.
Yep. So that's a tough drive, but she'll get used to it.
Yeah. Well, that's dope. It's a good able to knock two things out then while you out here. So
facts.
That's good. But yeah, man, I've been good as well. So I'm just excited about our episode today. Mm-hmm. And I think there'll be a ton of value in that. Let's see what else is going on. I'm going to Mexico tomorrow. So
right.
that'll be fun for going there for a few days. So see what's popping off in Cabo.
You getting your quarterly trip in?
Yeah. It's funny that it actually does end up going like that too. Every quarter. It's so funny. And I told you I had one in December.
Yes, I remember we talked about that. Like you said, you had one plan for December. I said, yeah, you take quarterly trips.
But it's funny. I didn't even intend to do it, but it always ends up happening like that. It's just
the funny part is that once you get back from a trip, you be like, yeah, I'm good for a minute. It's like, nah, whatever. I'll talk to you in 3 months. Hey, I need another trip in. I need to get one.
I was actually good. Like I really did. I was actually good.
What happens tomorrow? It's like, dang, I'm due.
I went to Colombia in May and June, and that was like I'm still like cool off of that, to be honest. But this kind of came up. So
how many trips did you take in February?
That was not the same thing. That was not the same thing.
I don't think you would be good from just February for the whole year.
No, I mean no. But February was 2 of those trips was like it was not like leisure. The only ones that was Miami and Vegas. Those were weekend trips.
Those are both in February?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See. It's all good, man. That's really the goal, though. Like I say, like that's why we're doing everything that we do. Like that should be. It's not even gonna be quarterly. It may be a monthly eventually.
Yeah.
Like that's literally part of the entire thing we're trying to build out.
Yeah, man. If you're able to, why not? If what else am I doing?
All right.
I mean, I'm always here, working, doing myself. So if I'm not here, then I might as well go somewhere else. So
and I think it's also a beauty thing of being able to make money from anywhere. Like so. If you are running a business or if you are doing things to make money to where you don't have your physical presence isn't needed, you can literally go to a vacation spot and do the same thing as somewhere else.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, man. things is good. Things is going well. Business is going well. I can't complain there. You know, we're still consistently what?
Oh no, nothing. I was just thinking about business.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if you got any updates.
Yeah, I guess I'll share some, man. So I think last time I said we were getting 4 new cars that we were trying to bring into our fleet, like because we do have a lender that can give us cars. But the big thing with our business right now is that we're trying to make that transition from being known as Turo hosts to being rental car owners. And so with that being said, a lot of like the larger companies, like it's like you're pretty much working with a whole new set of relationship, like people that you have like within the industry. So now the insurance companies that you work with are commercial lenders or commercial insurers. The same thing with the lenders that we work with. That's why it's so hard to get lenders, because now you're talking to commercial lenders that are lending you commercial size fleets. And so they all have their criteria. So we're trying to start working with different insurance companies and on the commercial side. And the vehicles that we were trying to get were all like commercial size, like 12 passenger vehicles. And no insurance company wanted to insure those. Like I probably talked to 7 to 10 different companies last week alone. And they just one by one, left and right, just were like, nope, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Primarily because of just the risk that they would be taking on with somebody who's new, on top of having the fact that those are large passenger vehicles. Like that means you can sit 12 to 15 people in it. So if somebody gets into an accident, that's 12 to 15 liabilities that you have to worry about as far as like medical issues or whatever else. They like, we're not taking that on, because that premium is probably gonna be like $2,000-$3,000. It could be even be that high. I know they were quoting already like $1,000, $2,000 just before we even really dove into the number. They're like, this is about to be a pretty high.
Yeah, because it really is like, it's like insuring a bus. Like imagine a bus that a bus company. Imagine how much insurance they had to pay for 40 I don't know 40 50 people on a bus. That's probably crazy. So I can see that definitely being.
Yeah, and then that was the biggest obstacle that we're trying to overcome. So we probably just have to change the cars that we're going after in the meantime, because they will insure our fleet. It's just the fact that we had so many of those passenger vehicles that they're like, we're not taking that risk with you right now. And so you can just keep on going to insurance companies, or you can just pivot a little bit with your strategy to meet what they're looking for in the interim time, and then go back to the passenger vehicles later.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're going to do now. And that's, like I said, that's part of just growing from that, like I said, that Turo host to that rental car fleet owner and the independent operator. Just little differences little things like that is what's slowing us down from really being able to just blossom to where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, but it's like, man, that's just a part of that whole. It's like you get through one obstacle and then there's another one. Yeah, it's literally always going to be something else that you have to kind of get through. And the only way you lose is if one of the obstacles is the final one, and you're just like, all right, that's it. I'm not fighting this obstacle.
I ain't gonna lie. I had considered. I'm like, man, do I feel like doing this? I'm like, it's you too close for like you know what's on the other side of getting past these obstacles.
Yeah,
and so that's what keeps me grounded and just saying let's push through it, because. And I really had to rein it in too, because I know a couple weeks ago I was debating, should I like pivot altogether to something else, and I had to think about it. I was like, I intentionally wanted to be in this position about this time last year, or like even earlier this year, like January, February. My goal was to stop doing the in the business work to do the on the business work.
Now you're doing it.
This is the on the business work. what is the alternative? If you don't want to do this, you can do something completely different, but this is literally what you were asking for.
Right.
And so that was like my come to reality moment. Like, you asked for this like 7 months ago. Let's just like go all in like you would do anything else, and just like execute. So that was like my extra motivation, just to say, let's push through it and just figure it out.
Man, that's a fact, man. Cause it's like it could be now, if you were in a situation where you were still in the same place that you were last year and you're still dealing with the same problems, then that's an issue.
Right.
But the fact that your problems are elevated, the fact that your problems or obstacles or the challenges that you're facing are different and they're like bigger, that's a good thing.
Yep.
Your problems get bigger, then that means, you're growing. And that's all you can really ask for. You can't really control, like, I guess, the timeline, but the fact that you are progressing is the most important thing.
Yeah, and that was, like I said, that was my reality moment. 'Cause I said the alternative, you could be just cleaning cars. Like, imagine doing that right now.
Yeah.
You could be cleaning cars, delivering cars to guests, and dealing with all that, or you could be talking to insurance companies and trying to figure out how to get insurance to insure a fleet of 100.
Yeah.
So, which one? You're going to do something at least right now in this time. So that was kind of my thought process that really said, you know what, let's just lock in and keep on going.
Right. Nah, that's real, man. That's real. It's that's the part of the journey. So I'm glad to see it. But yeah, man, I'm glad to hear business is going well for you. Things have been going well for me too, as far as my business goes. It's been pretty consistent over the year. I mean, just throughout this whole year, we've still been doing, anywhere between 35 to 50,000 every single month in revenue. So that's good to see, as long as I can kind of continue to remain consistent there and keep growing. And then, I'm pleased with kind of what's going on there. But I don't have too much more than that. I kind of want to really get into the episode that we have for this week. I think that you had a topic that you wanted to kind of bring up, so I'll let you kind of introduce it.
Yeah, this is really stemming from a conversation that I had with my dad yesterday. So yesterday, and really like the past couple of weeks, I've really been thinking a lot about what happens as we start consuming information. Because one thing we always tell people is to educate yourself.
Yeah,
like that's one of the biggest things that we are an advocate of is like educating yourself. But also at the same time, what I've seen a lot of people do, like especially like in the morning meetup that I'm in, also with my dad as another example, you get caught in an education phase, meaning that you are always trying to find another source of education. Like, okay, I like learning for the sake of gaining knowledge as opposed to learning to take action. And I've seen that, like I said, the morning meetup is a good example because I think I said a couple weeks ago, like how I had taken like a small, maybe like a month or two break from there because I was like really building, and people were looking at me like, "Hey man, what you doing? Like, why are you not here?" And I started thinking, I'm like, "Yo, so what's the purpose of this group?" Like really, I had to think about it. What is the purpose of this group? This is for the beginning entrepreneur who doesn't necessarily know what they want to do, and they're trying to really figure out how to think like an entrepreneur, how to move like an entrepreneur, how to actually grow their business. That is the purpose of the group. So theoretically, you should be able to quote unquote graduate.
right.
Like at some point you are no longer the target audience for that group. And so, but what happens is that everybody that's in there, it's a family atmosphere, which is why I love it too. But you get caught at the same time of wanting to continuously go there for the sake of going there and understand and not really understanding the goal behind it anymore. And so it's no longer a goal to why I'm going in here. It's just because I've always been doing this.
Yeah.
Very similar to what work was like. Like work, you just go there, I'm doing this because it's always been that way. I've always done this,
right,
rather than focusing on the goal. And I saw this with my dad too. So he's a big podcast listener. He always listens to podcasts. Like he keeps on buying books, listen to podcasts. He's like, bro, man, that's a good episode. Check this episode out. Like, or go check out this new book I just read. What are we doing though? So all these books we've read, all the podcasts we've listened to, all the YouTube videos we listened to, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
That was my biggest question mark that I had for not only just him, but like myself, and also for like anybody that was like answering me, like what's going on like within the morning meetup, because I think that gets lost too often. And so if you bring it back to what the foundation of our podcast, financial freedom, right. That's the answer. That's the why. And so once you get enough information, you have to stop seeking new knowledge and go execute. And so now my thing was, because I was talking to my dad, because he had never really thought about what is his financial freedom number? Like, what does it actually take for him to be comfortable enough to say, you know what, I can leave my job too. He never really thought about that, because he started talking about, it's real easy. Like when you single, like when you 20 some years old, and you have all these people depending on you. So I'm talking about like, I got this X amount that the job is bringing in, X amount in benefits, X amount, like all these numbers that's adding up and talking about like why you can't do it. But I'm like, you learned all this stuff for a reason though, right? It's not like you just learned it for the sake of learning it. And so with the knowledge you have, what can you leverage to build something that can help you achieve your financial freedom number, and say it's okay for me to make that step? Because right now, you have knowledge but no action.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty much like having no knowledge. Like,
you might as well have nothing.
Like you're still doing the same exact thing that you were doing 5 years ago. Like nothing has changed except you know more, but you're not doing nothing. So it's like nothing has changed physically though. And so my thought process is like, okay, so for anybody else that's listening, I feel like they can maybe be going through something similar. People like they love listening to our podcast, for example. But my thing is like, let's build out an actual plan. Like, let's figure out, can we create a financial freedom number? Like, what is our number that says this is the time where we are comfortable enough to exit out of 9 to 5 and actually just pursue whatever it is that we want to pursue, whether that's business, whether that's real estate, whether that's stocks, whatever that is. Like, what number do we need to hit as far as within our new venture in order to get there? And I think just breaking that down will help make it more realistic and like to really start to see what does it actually take, as opposed to just it being a dream and not something that can actually be achieved.
Yeah, I think that this is a very great thing to discuss. You hungry?
A little bit of both.
I know they had to have heard that.
They probably, because it was quiet.
Yeah. But I think this is a great conversation, because what happens is, for so long in your life, or it doesn't even have to be so long, it could be whatever X amount of years you've been like convinced like, hey, this is kind of how to live life, right? And then you come across this information or this concept of financial freedom, and like, hey, there's a whole world of people where they don't work a job to support themselves and their families. Like, they're able to live life on their own terms, right? And you kind of come across that, and what happens, you kind of get excited.
Yep.
And it becomes an emotional thing for you to like envision that for yourself, and you just kind of become inundated with like the thought of it, more so than actually what it takes to get there. It's just the thought of it. And so because like that thought of it is fueling a lot of it's occupying a lot of your mind space, you just want to consume things that kind of reinforce that thought and how that my life can look like that. And so you get comfortable just in that state of just like consuming the thing, because you feel like that's progress too in your head.
Yes.
Because it's like, you feel that, because I'm reading these books or I'm listening to these podcasts, I'm getting closer to financial freedom. When in theory you are getting closer, because you are closer than you were before you knew about it, right? Because before you knew about it, there was no way you were going to get financial freedom. Now you know about it, and you can, you have an idea of what it looks like. You have an idea of how people have done it, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about executing on the information. And that's why I'm a believer in just taking action, even if like I'm big on like having, and we've had this conversation literally on the podcast. I'm big on having as much information as I can, knowing as much as I can, because I'm just a big I just love educating and learning new things. But at the same time, I also know like I have a sense of urgency with things. But I think what happens with a lot of people is they don't have a sense of urgency on stuff.
Right.
So because there's no sense of urgency behind what you actually want, then you're comfortable with just kind of taking the information in and just kind of going along the path slowly until you feel like, okay, now, this is a good time to try to execute something. But for me, it's like, as soon as I know something, there's no way I can just have it. I can't just have it sit in my head and not execute on it. Like, I have to execute. And that's how it's always been for me. Every time I take a course, I listen to something, I learn something, I'm applying it immediately. As soon as I learned about real estate, applied it immediately. Literally didn't wait 6 months of learning, whatever, educating. But as soon as I felt comfortable, I'm in there. And it's not even about feeling comfortable. It's just about as soon as you have enough information that you need to be able to take the next step, right? I'm in there. I did the same thing whenever I got into trucking. Many would say it was like, you didn't know much. I took a course. I was like, hey, this is enough. It was enough to get started. I learned a lot during that. Anything I do with business is the same thing. You take a course, you learn stuff, and you start applying it immediately. It's just about literally the only difference between people that really do succeed and get stuff done is that they just don't. They have an urgency to them. Like everything behind them is a sense of urgency. Like, it's not like, I talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's like you're impatiently patient. Like, that, hey, I don't have time to just kind of sit here keep consuming. What am I gonna keep? Am I just gonna keep consuming information for the sake of consuming information? Like, oh man, this is like, it makes you feel good to like know this new stuff. Like, it's like, dang, that was good. And it's like you listen to someone say something or you read something in a book and it's like, whoa, that was good. And it's like it just goes to the back of your head and that's it. That was good. Yeah, it's always so funny how we in the beginning we would always hear people talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad.
That's a good book. Yeah, that was a good one, bro.
It'd be like, because it's like people will be like,
that makes sense, man.
People will be like, or you'll be like, yeah, I've been reading this book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and be like, yeah, man, that was a good book. And it's like, wait, this dude's he's at a 9-to-5 job with me, and he's telling me Rich Dad Poor Dad was a good book. I just found this book. If Rich Dad Poor Dad is a good book, why are you still working this job? And why is this still? And I'm not saying you can't work, but it's like, why is this still your life? Like, why do you have this? It's so crazy to me to come across someone that has the same mindset and agrees on a lot of stuff, but their life is not aligned with what they are talking about. It's like, it's not congruent. It's like you just like to know the information, you just like to talk, but you don't actually want to, or it's maybe you don't want to, you don't want to put in the effort, or you're afraid to actually take action on the information. But that is something that you will, it doesn't matter how much information you get. You will literally be in the same place. You can learn all this information for 10 years and be in the same exact place 10 years later because you never took action on nothing.
And it reminds me of so what that really is, because not that feel good that's the dopamine hit like we always talk about. Yeah, you essentially like think about people who buy courses. The most exciting time that you have when it's time to like learn information is when you first buy it. Yep. Once you bought it, that dopamine, like that was the pinnacle of it. Wears off. And now it wears off, and now you just have a course sitting there collecting dust. That is the information that you were seeking to do something with. And if you learn it, like you're not as excited about the learning it as you were when you first bought it. Like you're pretty much seeking what new dopamine hit can I get. And so when you go to listen to a podcast episode, what new thing can I learn that makes a lot of sense? Like, oh, that is good. I never heard it said that way before. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, like, oh man, I got my dopamine hit for today. That was my good feeling. Yeah. But now what happens after that? Nothing. And I think we even talked about this before too. It's similar to like how people go to like an NBA game to live through the NBA players. Like they are getting their satisfaction for their life through somebody else. Meaning like that's why they are so passionate about when somebody makes a shot, or they're passionately against the other team because they want to see their team win because they get the gratification like as if they won. Yeah. And so like you're okay with seeing somebody else being successful, within the entrepreneurship world, like and especially when they're telling you like how they did it, like you get the gratification of like seeing like, oh man, I almost feel like I was a part of that journey. Like I get to hear their story being told, or I get to see like how they achieved it and understand that it is possible, or just knowing that the possibility is out there. But the part of taking action is still not there. And I think as an employee, when do you like truly have to set like deadlines for yourself, or have to create or like the initiator to have to do something that says this is the urgency that we need to do for this particular project, this is the deadline we have, this is I'm setting the goals and the standards for what we need to do. You never do. I think that has something to do with it too, because we are never trained to like really set that deadline or goals or anything like that. And so you hear the information, but your training, like psychologically, you never actually had to go and initiate something afterwards.
That's so crazy to me though, because it doesn't make sense to me logically. Like, yes, you're not giving a damn, but how do you expect to get that? Like, that's the thing that is like the disconnect, because it's like, you can have the information, but how do you expect to get what they got? How do you expect to like emulate their result without applying it? Like, what are you waiting? Like, what is the actual? Because there has to be something in your, because deep down I have to execute this. Yeah. At some point, but like, what is the thing that's keeping you from just like executing it or taking action? Like, what is that? There's something.
I think it's a guidance thing. Like, I think so. I've heard a quote. I love it still. It's people are silently seeking to be led. Like they are seeking for somebody to say, here's step one, and I will walk you through it. Yeah. And without that, like that's pretty much the initiator. So they're looking for an initiator that says this is our deadline and now let's run towards it, which is why people do a lot better when they have a bit like a coach or something that's telling them. It's pretty much like they're like a glorified teacher at that point, where they say this is your deadline and you do this. And now all of a sudden they can go execute because they have that missing piece. Like they don't have the initiation of saying, this is the day that we need to have this completed, or this day we need to get this particular business started up. And this is my roadmaps in order to complete it by this date. That takes a level of initiative that I don't know how to actually develop that, but I've seen it even happen I was thinking like examples of it. We've talked about Undercover Billionaire before, where that's the show where the billionaires showed up, like Grant Cardone was placed in an unknown place, was just nothing but a phone with no contacts in it, $100 bill, and an old beat up truck, and the goal was to reach $1 million business valuation within 90 days. I remember him in the first week, he said, "My goal is to make $3,000 to $4,000." That's my goal, is to increase my net worth from $100 to $3,000 to $4,000 in the first week. That was an immediate initiative to say, I have a goal set and I have a deadline for it. Even if I don't hit it, I set the goal because that's just how he's wired to set goals for yourself. And a lot of people don't do that particular part of it. And I thought that was huge because that is what everything I was just trying to say in the beginning. Like I said, what is your number? You have to create something create some type of target to go towards. And nobody's ever creating that target. So they're just continuously consuming information and not doing anything with it as a result.
But so let's say they create a target, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say they say, okay, arbitrary $10,000 I want to get. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, whatever, just to say $10,000. What is that? Like, what is still, because I feel like you can have that target, but people still aren't executing. Right. Like, what is keeping you from executing? I really think it's just because it's the way people are wired. People are wired differently. And typically the most successful people in business, really in life, are the people that just are able to execute without getting, just on their own. They don't need anything from anyone. Like, I don't need to ask anyone for help.
Yeah.
And as bad as that might sound, like, I'm not telling you not to ask for help, but the people that have that mindset of like, I don't even want to ask for help, typically get stuff done much more rapidly. Mm-hmm. And it's like you have that initiative because it's like, I'm going to get this done myself. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like, there's just that disconnect between those people. And I think what you said about guidance has a lot to do with it, because it's like they're not used to having to kind of just figure it out on their own and get stuff on their own. But let's say they have that, like I said, that arbitrary number. What is that person supposed to do now once they have that number?
First off, I thought it was important to not only just make a number, because what I don't want y'all to do is go pick a random number. Don't just pick 10,000. I really don't want you to even pick a number with a zero at the end. Yeah. Because I want the number should be calculated, and it should be based on your current expenses. So like, this is the how to figure out what that number is breaking it down to seeing what's your current lifestyle like really seeing like what are you living by, like what are you living off of month by month right now. And what do you need? Like, what are your necessities? That way you can really figure out how much, quantify, like, how close am I to that goal? Like, so if my living expenses are $2,432, like, to be an exact number, because when you look at your budget, it's not going to end with like all these perfect zeros. It may be a certain number. So now, 2,432 is the number that I need to make per month, at least to cover my basic living expenses. Yeah. And so now when I have that number, now you can break it down to make sure everything was a need, of course, but really I set that number to now figure out what vehicle can get me there and what do I need to do to utilize this vehicle to get me to that number. Yeah. You have to, it's reverse engineering it. You have to know where the goal is first and then figure out how to get to that goal afterwards. Right. And so it's really creating a process for yourself to get there. And so Grant, on the episode of Undercover Billionaire, he said $3,000 to $4,000 was his goal for the week. But then he talked about how he was going to get there, like what his plan was in order to get there. All of that is just, it was second nature to him, but I really had to think about him. Like, people don't do that part. Yeah. And that's what, like you said, people who just separate themselves and are able to make it, they create that initiative. They have that initiative to say, this is my goal. This is my plan to get to my goal. And this is my deadline to hit that goal.
Yeah. And I think that's huge too, because it really makes it a reality for you and your situation when you're able to break it down as if like, okay, what does my personal situation look like? And how can I like actually make that, how can I get to that number? Right. Because I think I also agree that it's not good to just use like an arbitrary whatever $5,000, $10,000 a month, because that just becomes like a fickle thing in your head. It's not actually like a definite thing that you kind of have thought about. It's just a fickle number you just kind of pulled out of nowhere.
It has no substance. So like that goal number is synonymous with your why. Like, this is the why we're going on this journey.
Yeah.
And so if that number is just picked out of thin air, it has no ground, no foundation. So it's not a strong why. And so you're not going to really pursue it.
And the good thing about being very specific with it, whatever number you need is, or whatever by the way, when we say financial freedom number, we're saying your monthly expenses, what you need to cover, what you need to make every month to cover your necessities, so you don't have to trade in your time for money.
Level 1, financial freedom in this case.
Yes. And so what happens, I think, and this is kind of how I view things just in my head. Everyone, like I said, everyone has it wired differently, but I see things as like, let's say my number is, I don't know. I mean, my number right now is super low because like my expenses are pennies. I would say, I don't know, $1,100 something a month. If I had to just kind of pick off my head, I don't know what it is exactly, but I know that generally, okay, let's say I need to make $1,125 a month. If I can make something that is, let's say I make $300 doing one of my things, I know that, cool, I just covered my groceries with that. And so now I'm able to like relate everything I do back to my personal situation.
Yep.
Like, oh, okay, I just made this, that covers my phone bill for this month. Nice. And it kind of like, you keep doing that to where eventually it's like you just start trying to cover little things. Like, cool, I can cover this. I just covered my car note. Ooh, I made, $1,437. That's just covered my rent.
Yep.
And it's like I relate it back to everything that's going on in my life, and that way it becomes real. Yeah. It becomes something that I can see and visualize, rather than me just trying to accumulate just these fickle dollars that have no meaning behind them. They're just numbers, because I said in my back of my head I wanted to make $5,000 a month, which that doesn't mean anything. So yeah, I think that's a good start to actually start like visualize, because it's not even necessarily about the action at this point in your head. It's about getting your head in the mindset to take action. So before you can take action, you have to be in the mindset to take action, because it's easy for us to just say, oh, just go take action. But if you're not in that mindset to take action, you don't even know how that looks or how to go about that. So for me personally, how I get my head into the mindset to take action on some sort of concept or new information is by relating it back to my personal situation, so that it motivates me more. I can visualize it more. I can see it more. I'm very big on visualizing things in my head and painting very, very vivid images of myself doing things, like certain dollars in my bank account, me seeing it transfer from my business to my personal, like seeing me pay for certain, like I'm very big on visualizing those things because it makes it more real to me.
Yep. And I think what you were saying about like every dollar that you bring in, you can see that covering something that replaces the original dopamine hit you were getting from buying the courses.
Facts.
This is your new dopamine hit.
Yes.
You seeing that you just paid off something like one of your expenses and got closer to your goal. That is now your reward system.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to be able to achieve it in a different way. And that's why it's going to be so rewarding to go on that journey now to go get that exact number, as opposed to saying, I want $20,000 a month. If it has no substance to it. And so now you may make $1,000 or $2,000 a month, but it has no meaning to it, even though it may be 10 or 20% of the goal that you're trying to get to. But it had, like I said, it had no meaning behind it. So it's like, you're not going to get that dopamine here, but you will get it if you're just going to gain new knowledge for knowledge's sake. So you're naturally going to tend more towards that, because that's going to give you the gratification that you're seeking. And I think it plays in different levels too. So like what you were talking about, especially when you're saying like seeing the dollars in your bank account and understanding all that, you may even be thinking like level 2, like what does level 2 look like for you? And this is why I'm very big on like building out that dream lifestyle. So really let's just take a whole day and say, what does my dream lifestyle need to look like? From the car that I drive to the house that I live in to the number of times I travel. Like you said, we were talking about earlier, traveling, is it quarterly? Is it going to be monthly? How much does that cost each time that you travel? All of those questions can be answered. Do I want to have, a butler or maid? Do I want to have my lawn done every month? price down everything.
Yeah.
And create that number. Like this would be like once you've hit level 1, like that could be your level 2, and that could level 2 may be what you're driving towards at all times. And but that makes it real too, though, because now you can see tangibly how close am I today to achieving my ultimate goal that I have.
Right.
And once you can see yourself moving towards it, that is what makes it real. And especially as you continue to see progress, now it's like, oh man, I am this close now to that goal. And now that's the most gratifying. That's the gratifying part of it all, is just knowing that you've made progress from where you started to where you are. And it's all because of the plan that you created to get there.
Mm-hmm. And that it all starts with first, like really shifting the way you think and to know that, hey, I'm not just consuming this just to consume this information. There's purpose behind this. I need to relate this information into my lifestyle. So whatever vehicle I'm using or whatever, thing that I'm going to be using to fund my financial freedom or my lifestyle, I need to relate that back to my life. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, no. So that's the main thing for me. I know this is probably gonna be a short episode. I think this is a powerful one though too.
Yeah.
At the same time, because like I said, a lot of people I've seen, like I said, even in the morning meetup, that was like the catalyst for me, because they were like, some people were like feeling like, hey man, you all right? You dead, bro? Like you good? Right. I'm like, I'm doing what's really necessary to get to that. The actual, like I'm doing the next step. We're not just here to learn. We're here to learn and implement. And like that was just and like I said, seeing the same thing with my dad, that really took it for me. Is like, I think this is something that a lot of people are missing. That's like the missing piece for a lot of people.
Yeah, man. And I just been trying to really think this whole time what that thing is that really makes people different and makes someone able to execute. I don't know what it is, but there's something, because there's no reason that some people do it and some people don't. Like I really want to figure out like what that thing is that's like, what makes someone, and I think a lot of it's just who you are. Like for the most part, you just got it or you don't. Like there's someone that you have a sense of urgency. I don't know what puts that sense of urgency in your life, or what it is that like makes you like that type of person, because obviously it could be a million different reasons that someone can be that way. Mm-hmm. Right. But it's like, because I look at my life and I would consider myself that type of person that is like self-starter. Like I don't need a push to go like do something. If I get a piece of information that's new, it's only a matter of minutes before I'm executing on it. It's like it's on borrowed time before I'm not executing on it. And so, but I don't know, because it's like something that there was never a point in my life where,
I was about to ask that too. Do you ever think there was a moment in time where he's like, yo, this is like, that was the defining moment where I just started like really taking the extra initiative with something?
No, I don't remember that, because I've always remembered being like that. Mm-hmm. That's why it's just like, I don't know if it's just like who you are like as a person, because like even in school or whatever, it was never like something so simple as like selling cards. Like when we would do that, so in football in high school, we had to sell these fundraiser cards, and it was something that we would do, to fundraise for the football team, whatever. It was probably like, child labor or something to a degree, but
and that son probably so.
Yeah. And it was the rewards are really trash, but that's not the point. The point was like,
I just thought about that reward. Yeah, that was a lot back then.
Yeah, $100.
Oh my God, 50. Like 50 for 50 or something.
Didn't you know how? Anyway, so me and Marlon would literally always be the top sellers, and we would always like pretty much sell at least 100, somewhere around 100, and it was like no one else. I don't remember anyone else that since 7th grade when I started. I don't remember anyone else ever coming close to like. Maybe a couple years, it would be someone where their parents would go. But it was never, people weren't doing the work how we was doing it. They weren't on the bikes outside every day after practice for 2, 3, 4 hours, out on weekends in the sun. Like, no, I guarantee nobody was doing that. And that's why I say you just built differently. Like some people just built different. Because why is a 12-year-old, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old doing that when the other ones aren't? You're just built differently. And it's like, it's not to say that the other ones are wrong or they were bad or nothing. It was just, they're just different.
No, that is super real, man. Because now build different is definitely a thing. So I do want to figure out for other people, but I do want to at least comment on this too, because that's like, for me, I know that was goal oriented. Like once you put a goal in front of me, I have a motivation now to go out and get it. That was me back then. So like they gave us the goals that we had, that like they gave us a milestone victory. So now literally they gave us the initial thing we need to go after, and I built out the roadmap from there. Like in my own head. So I'm thinking, okay, process. Yeah. So 50 cards. If I need to sell 50 cards, that means I need to go out each day and let's go ahead and like get these cards, like knock on these doors. I know every door is not going to be a sale, but I built out that after knowing the goal. Right. And so that's me being goal oriented. And I thought about a lesser example, but at a younger age, when I would, so this is me, this is why I say built different. This is definitely me being built different. When I would go to Chuck E. Cheese, like literally the arcade where everybody's there to have fun and like go on a playscapes and go and like racing people and stuff. I'm the only kid in there that's going to the little spin table that's like that you can hit the jackpot if you like time it just right. The whole day I'm on there. But why? Because but when I first walked in, I look at the goal. I walk up to the table. What do I want to win? Okay, that one, that bear right there costs 1,000. Yeah. Costs 1,000 tickets. That bear, that Sonic over there costs 500. I want Sonic. All right, whole day. I hope y'all on YouTube watching this. Literally, everybody's playing games. I'm just in there. I want that 500. So I'm waiting for the jackpot because this is the one this is one I've actually perfected. Like I probably hit jackpot like 3 times a day, and I'm just like it's a numbers game. I'm just playing by the numbers. Put a quarter in. All right. Front 1, 2. So in my whole like it would make the whole jackpot sound like that was my gratification because I know I'm getting closer to the goal. Yeah. So that was even at a young age. So that I can truly attest that might be being built different. Just because, like I said, everybody else, they're not even thinking about that. So everybody else is going to take what they're given at the end. Like I may have won 20 tickets and now I'll see what can I get versus somebody walking in saying, what is there out there? And now I'll figure out how to get there.
And you know what's crazy? It's the fact that, because what I'm realizing is like, it's not what seems hard to other people is easy for you because that's what actually gratifies you. So it's like whether it was the goal, the Chuck E. Cheese or the football cards, whatever, like the goal in getting that objective was gratifying. More so like working towards it was like, I didn't mind it because I knew how like gratifying that goal would be. But for a lot of people, I think what happens is it's not in your head. It's not gratifying. Like the work for it is not gratifying to you. Like that process and that journey, it's not gratifying.
Right. The journey isn't the gratifying piece.
Yeah. It's not like you don't enjoy that. It's just chore to you. And that's, again, some people you can become a person that can start enjoying that, but it's a lot easier if you're just already naturally built that way to like already. And I'm not saying like I like working and doing stuff like that, but like I enjoy that journey and I enjoy like the milestones and the achievements so much that like it outweighs whatever effort or work or feeling I have. I don't know. I'm just really just brainstorming out here. So
I brainstormed. I was thinking of it too. So a lot of our guests, I think it's a good point of reference. Not every one of our guests was built like that. Was built just the difference of being built and just saying I'm just been like this from day one. Right. Some of like what was, I just want you to think about it. What was the commonality that a lot of them had that gave them that grit to say this is my goal and I'm going after it at all costs?
It was a bad situation.
And I think that's what a lot of people. So before that bad situation, why weren't they like that?
Before they were like in their situation that they were in.
Yeah,
because they were comfortable.
I think that's the answer too. Because that was my answer when I thought about it. Like just keep backtracking it because those are just, you can consider those everyday people before they had that moment. And so a lot of people, I think what's going on is that they're in a situation where they rather live their current lifestyle or they're more comfortable with their current lifestyle than the thought of pursuing this goal that may be getting them out of their comfort zone. Yeah. But if you're ever faced with a point where you have to figure something out, that now kind of builds that drive within you to now say, I can't be in this position no longer. I'm too uncomfortable in this position and I'll be more comfortable pursuing something else. Yeah. And without that, you just are going to tend to doing what you already are used to and whatever you're most comfortable with.
No, that's real. And I think, just to tie it back together, just to kind of what you said about your dad too, because it's like, if this is not just even him,
that's big too,
this is with a lot of people. What happens is like, you can get so comfortable with your situation, and then you can, now what you do is you add the thoughts which give you dopamine to your situation. So it's like, I'm so comfortable, and then now I can get dopamine added by like listening to podcasts, books, all this stuff, and buying courses, and still have my situation to like save me. Like, that's like I'm in a good place where it's like, cool, I can just keep getting this dopamine and have my situation. You're not active. You're not telling yourself that's what you're going to do, but that's what you're doing. Cause it's like, you just feel so good getting your paychecks and not having to stress like all that. And it's like, you're not sick and tired yet. So,
yep. And I remember David Shands, he actually posted this, and it got a lot of backlash. And I see why he posted it now. He had posted something, I don't even know how to post, like it was a while back, but he had posted a tweet on like Instagram. You know how they screenshot the tweets. He posted it, said, "I hope you lose your job today." And it just left it at that. And people were outraged inside the comments, like, bro, my job, I'm living off of this. Like, what you mean? Like, this is how I'm paying for me to be able to buy the course that y'all are selling. Everybody just going at him. And then later he came in the morning meetup. He had said, "Everything that I say is very targeted because I know my audience. My audience is comfortable."
Yeah. And
that's speaking to them because they're not going to take action until they get until their situation is no longer comfortable. And once they finally get uncomfortable, now they are going to be faced with a situation where they have to figure something out. And being in a situation where you have to do it versus have the option to do it is two totally different things. So if you have the option to do it or stay in your situation, if your situation is comfortable enough, you just going to choose to do this and continue to consume information and not necessarily take action on it.
Yep. That's a good setup for those people. It's like, yo, I can have my little situation and consume information. So it's like I get to, like you said, it's like live through someone else. I get to have fulfillment. They get fulfillment in their life, so I get some of that too. And I still am in a pretty good situation. It's like, yo, I'll take it. And so you do that long enough, you find yourself still in the same place for a long time. And that's like, it's the reality of it. So that's just something you got to just be real with yourself about, if that's something that that's happening for you, or if if you consume information just for the sake of consuming it and even if you listen to this podcast and you don't take action, and I mean, you might as well not even listen.
Yeah, I hope y'all don't leave this. I'll say this before, I'll say it again. I hope that you don't leave this episode saying, bro, that was a good episode. I'm calling you out on this one. I heard you say it last time. Don't do it this time too, because this is literally like, take this the second to evaluate. Is anything that we saying real? Yeah. Like, cause I think we probably hit the nail on the head with this one, and really had to just dissect it and figure out what is the commonality for people who are not taking action. Because a lot of people love like tuning in every single week. To be honest, I would be happy to start seeing listeners drop off because new ones can come in. New ones come in. But if you've been listening from the beginning, shout out to you, first of all. But at the same time, how much action have you taken on what we've been saying?
Yo, if you've been listening from the beginning, you still in the same place, you should be ashamed of yourself.
That's 145. I'm looking right at the camera now. 145 episodes you've listened to. What has changed?
You're not an action taker.
You have to do something different. So that is my request to you, is figure out what is your game plan to actually remove yourself from your situation. You have to build out that roadmap and figure out what is the number that I need to do. What's the number I need to hit in order to change my situation, and build out the roadmap to figure out how to get there. Because continuously consuming information it's like a rut. You continuously go through it, and it's a dopamine hit of hearing a good episode and like living off of that for the next week or 6 days until the next Thursday comes up, and like, okay, I hope we get another one. just fiending for dopamine hits. Fiend for a lifestyle that you desire, and make that your why of like what you're continuously pursuing.
Yeah, man. So that's what we got for y'all this week.
Yeah, that'll be another good one, I think. Yeah. Just don't say that. That's another good one. But let's transition to the next segment.
Well, yeah, we can do it real quick.
Yep. So
how can I be successful? How can I follow the path that someone else has laid for me to be successful?
Ask the Monopolizers.
I remember we had this one question come up a couple weeks ago from I don't know how to say your name. I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, but Kaya Rianne. It was actually it was a comment on one of our videos. How do you get over the fear of failure? I think that's one reason why I'm catching myself jumping from one thing from thing to thing, because in my head, I believe that if I fail at one thing, at least I would have been practicing something else. So I have something to fall back on. So going back to the original question, how do you get over the fear of failure?
Yeah, I like that question because that was based off of the episode when we talked about you have to focus on one thing to become an expert and to become wealthy. You can't be just jumping around doing different stuff. You have to become an expert at something. So she's asking, being able to like do multiple things helps me like have peace, because I know if I fail at one thing, I at least have this other thing. Mm-hmm. And what I'll say is, if that's what you feel, then you are not confident enough in your abilities. Yeah. And for me, I know confidence comes from knowledge and having the right information to be able to execute. Now, everyone's confidence kind of comes from something, and this is where you have to have a lot of self-awareness, because I know that for me, like, I do get confidence from I feel like I can do anything if I have information and new information that I haven't, something new I haven't done or tried. Then I feel like, okay, this has to work. Mm-hmm. And it's just like a sense of ignorance, but it's like in my head I know, like, hey, this has to work,
right?
And so for me, I feel very confident in being able to try something and not fail at it. And I know, hey, if I do try it long enough and I do fail at it, then I'll try something else. It is what it is. But I think if you're asking that question, then you're not confident enough in your abilities, and that means your confidence. That means you're not educated. You're not informed enough. Now, I know that's kind of counter. We literally just did a whole episode about stop just focusing on information and consuming information, education. But you got to understand who you are, and you have that self-awareness. And I would question you to really think about, hey, how confident are you in your ability to be able to execute on the information that you just got? Mm-hmm. Do you feel confident in it or not? And that is again something that I think for a lot of people, you either just I don't know, the self-awareness is the most important thing, because you know where you get your confidence from. You know whether if it's from having the right information or seeing someone else do it or having a mentor or whatever, having some guy, having a coach. You know where you get that from, and that's what you need to get to, because you shouldn't even be in a place where you're asking about falling back to the next thing or going to the next thing, because that means that you're not even confident in what you're doing on the first thing.
Yeah, and basically, I think I'm just gonna echo a lot of what you said, because if you are trying to jump from one thing to the next, I mean, you did say even in the question you have a fear of failure. That's because you're going in with a fear of failure, meaning that you are already looking for backup plans because you don't even expect this to work. Yeah. The confidence Alex is talking about is like, this has to work. I know if it's worked for other people, I know it can work for me. That is a level of confidence you're approaching it with, saying there is no plan B. Like if I execute on this for long enough, it will work. You have to approach it with that mentality, but you only can approach it with that mentality if you believe that for yourself. Yeah. So you have to have that belief in yourself that if I apply 100% effort into this, it's going to work. And so now it's all about execution. As long as I continue to execute on it, applying my 100% effort. So belief in myself plus belief in whatever I'm going, whatever vehicle I'm using, both of those together is what breeds the confidence of saying that I don't need another plan. I don't need a plan B, because as long as it's me doing it, and as long as it's in this vehicle that I know has worked for other people and can work for me, then that breeds the confidence that you need to not worry about failure. And even if you do fail, it's the confidence should still transition from one thing to the next. Exactly. After the fact, like we went through this long enough and said, and this is the self-awareness piece. Understand why it failed. Was it something that was I not giving it enough effort? Was the timing not right within the market? Is there no demand for this product or service or whatever vehicle I'm going into? Understand why it happened. and let that be a lesson for you. So I'm not worried about failing because I didn't fail. I just learned something new during that time frame, and now I'm switching to the next thing. And I think another thing that helps out also is understanding that what is my alternative to pursuing this particular venture and just locking in on this. I always said my worst case scenario by far, and not by far, but my worst case scenario in general is just going to get a job like everybody else. That is my worst case scenario. If that's my worst case, then why am I afraid of doing something? Because my worst case is being like everybody else. So that gives me the confidence to say, I'm just about to go all in on this, because my worst case, I'm normal like everybody anyways.
Yeah. Which is terrible, but you know.
So that gives me like I have a win-win basically. I'm just like it's a calculated bet. I forgot the name. Like what kind
asymmetrical.
of bet? Yeah, it's an asymmetrical bet. Like I'm going to win regardless, and you have to really approach it that way. But having the confidence in yourself to say it like that helps you move forward without worrying about having a backup plan. I've heard somebody say it before. I love this quote too. I don't have a plan B. Plan B is to enforce plan A. Yeah, and that's how you have to approach it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the most important thing. I would say that there's never been a point in this journey where it's like, no matter what I was doing, I always envisioned like, dang, this is going to be the thing that gets me to level 2 financial freedom. Like, I always saw that. It was never a point where it was like, dang, I don't know if this will work, until I've said, okay, I'm going to the next thing. But by that time, my mind had already transitioned to this next thing. The next thing that's going to get me to level 2. So there's never a point where it's like, dang, is this going to work? It's going to work. It's just about when is it going to work? But you don't know that. So you just have to keep working. And that's the reality of it.
Right. And that's where it goes to belief in yourself. As long as I keep working, I know that I'm going to get there eventually. Yeah. So it's just a matter of time at that point. But that's just, like I said, you have to have belief in yourself and the vehicle. Right. This vehicle's going to give me the financial freedom, and me working getting it for long enough is going to be the one what gets me there.
Facts.
So that's it for me. That's all we got.
Cool. So yeah, this has been a very great episode. So I think we could wrap it up there. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed it, and don't just listen to it and say, man, that was a good one. Can't wait for next week.
Right.
So, but I know people are going to do it anyway.
Yeah. We talked to somebody, heard somebody was moved from this one. Yeah. Not everybody, it didn't reach everybody this time, but maybe next time.
Cool. That is it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released on Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, we'd appreciate if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged. So be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.